When you're starting with a new high-level client, it's really important that time is of the essence to start delivering value to them as fast as possible. There's tons of pressure on you, and it's also kind of overwhelming because you're walking into an account that you might not know anything of. Maybe you were just hired as an employee, maybe you're a contractor to clean up the mess of the previous guy, or maybe you're just a marketing agency that has a client and you're coming in, you're taking over, you're building some things for them, and things are a mess. So the pressure is there to really kind of speed run through and go in and start changing things and fixing things. And so what I wanted to do was give you a systematic what are the highest value ways that we can start with an account. The first 60 minutes of taking on this account, of opening things up, what are those things that if we do at the beginning is going to save us tens of hours in the future, and is going to save us a lot of time, a lot of back and forth, and hopefully a ton of money. So no matter what, the first thing I do is I want to have a conversation with the agency owner, the end client. And what I want to do is I want to do a mapping session. So we're going to assume that you might have already done that. You want to ask them what they think is happening in the account. How do they think things were? Now, I've done some video trainings on this before, so I'm not going to get in super deep, but I'm going to assume that you've already gotten the general kind of Coles notes, or you've already done some initial ideas of what you're walking into. But the reality is that even no matter how good you are at mapping, the reliability of that map comes down to the person that you were doing the mapping with. Maybe they kind of said a couple little gray lies to you, maybe a little mistruths, or maybe they just didn't know any better and they're just trying to kind of cover things up and say it's all good. So the very first thing, and this is step number one, very first thing I do in the first 60 minutes is I'm going to open up their account, and I am going to just start opening things up and seeing if what they told me matches reality. Now, first thing is we just go in. So I'd go into the account, I'd open up the very first set of workflows, or the very first folder. I'm just going to open them all up, and I'm just going to open up a workflow. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do three things. One, I'm going to try and figure out what this workflow does, right? And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I'm going to just document this asset. So I'm going to create a workflow. I'm going to take that workflow name, and I'm just going to take that guy off. And then I'm going to try and figure out what this thing does. So right now it looks like we have a custom value updater, and when a form is submitted, we're going to have this custom value gets updated. So what this is telling me is, and from the very quick look that I saw, is we have a whole bunch of custom value update. This is like an onboarding form, and maybe I remember that from the mapping session, right? So this workflow updates the onboarding form custom values. There we go. If you want to add all the extra details, I generally don't try and get too detailed with things at first. Right now, what's really important is just a simple 1 or 2 sentence of why does this thing exist. And the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to go in and link any assets I see. So what we're doing is we're in that first one. What were the assets that I saw? I'm going to click in the top one, and we have that form. So this is an asset form. I'm just going to go and add. We're going to create a new asset, and this is a form. What was the name again? CVC Custom Value Updater. Oh, Dater 1. There we go. CVC Custom Updater 1. And this one will actually trigger things. So we're going to create that link. Cool. So now I have this documented, the Custom Value Updater. I'm going to have the description of the workflow. So this workflow now is getting it's getting a lot more it's starting to make sense. I'm starting to prove things in there. I'm starting to linking things together so I don't have to remember it all later. Because this is what happens. You get a custom value, and this custom value here, this custom value updater. So I'm just going to throw that guy in here. So I'm opening the workflow, and then the assets. And what did I call that? See custom value updater as well. So we're going to create a new asset, custom value, and lost my lost my audio there. So we're going to call the CVC custom updater 1. We're going to create and link that one there too. So now what we've done here is what often there's a whole bunch of things. This thing's, okay, this is a little manual, what are we actually doing this and why? So one of the things is we now have started to map things out. We kind of looked in, we saying, hey, I actually know what this is, right? I have an actual sense of what this is. It's also going to show me if any problems happened. Do you know how many times when, people think things work, they kind of see it at a high level. When you click on it, maybe this form is no longer linked. Maybe the form got deleted, or maybe the custom value didn't import in properly. You start to find all of these bugs. And if you find any of those bugs, what we're going to do is you're going to come into your workflow. Let's just pretend that we saw a bug in there, right? I'm going to go into my updates and I'm going to link to it a new bug. So I'm going to say a bug and custom value is unlinked. Custom value was deleted. Maybe we'll just say something like that, right? Put it in there. Maybe it's a high priority. We'll just call it a medium priority. It's a bug. And it's going to impact existing clients, right? Oh, we'll just have it there. So now what we've done is we've been able to log. You want to be able to log that bug, because what it enables you to do is it now enables you to kind of just see it, recognize it's a problem, log it, and forget about it. You need to keep moving on. And so when you start doing that, you're going to start generating a list of bugs, list of things that you might want to improve, because it's so easy. You see something, you're like, this is a mess. I want to fix this right now. So instead of doing that and going down 10 different rabbit holes, what you want to do is you want to go in and just log the bugs, log the improvements that you've done. And that is going to be super helpful for you. And so I would do that and I would continue through. I would go through more of the workflows, and I'm just trying to, at this point, what I'm looking for is a pattern. What are the patterns I'm seeing? Are there certain ways that this snapshot or this account was set up that cause problems? Is there any kind of weirdnesses or quirks? Am I seeing some consistency that there are problems, or is everything looking nice and clean and organized, right? And you just want to start going through those to get a sense. Now, we said the first 60 minutes. So obviously, depending on how big the account is, you might not be able to get through everything in 60 minutes, right? So what you want to do is just prioritize things where you want to just start prioritizing things, getting a sense of the general account. So what would you prioritize? Well, depending on what the client's looking for. I tend to like to work backwards from the money. I have a concept called the money line, and anything on my visual map that is connected to the money is that's the important stuff. So and that's usually where you want to find the problems, right? Because if the money, if people can pay for things, that's the most important thing, because nothing else works unless people can pay for things. So I'm usually going to go to something like the sales calendar or onboarding, and I'm going to prioritize that, right? And then I kind of either work backwards from there, going from the order forms to the sales call, and then maybe to leads, or maybe even the onboarding might happen next. Cool. And the next thing that I'm also going to be looking as I'm doing this pass. So think about what we're doing here. We're doing QA. We're starting to validate our assumptions about the account. We're starting to get a sense of problems and what we're actually kind of walking into. We're starting to create some documentation for ourselves so that next week or next day or whenever, you start coming back to things, we're starting to establish some domain expertise here, because most people have never documented things. They've never looked at their accounts in detail. Maybe they built it 2 years ago and they don't ever bother looking things up. The biggest, highest value that you can do when you're coming into an account fresh that's already live and has its backlog of issues, the number one thing you can do is to start creating structure, start creating certainty, start creating assets that appreciate in time, right? Because when you have an account, you build everything that's in an account, it depreciates, it gets more complicated, it gets more messy. The value of things starts degrading over time. So what I like to do is make sure I can start from day one building good habits. And I'm going to try and obviously prioritize that, but that's kind of how I approach it. Cool. So once I'm going to start getting some assets in, there's something what I like to do, which is called I like to create modules for things. So what do we do is what is a module? A module is basically a group of assets, workflows, tags, custom fields that all share a similar set of functionality. So this custom value updater, I already mentioned, this is part of an onboarding process. The account gets created, this form this form gets triggered, and it'll update the account with all the custom values. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this into a module. And in this module, I'm going to call this the custom value updater onboarding. Let's just call it the custom value updater. That's pretty simple. And we'll call it the CV one, or CVC for short. Awesome. So what you can see now is we have our custom value updater workflow, and it's part of the module. In fact, we're going to put all these guys in there as well. And what this is doing, so we're starting to create some structure for people, right? I don't know if this module is going to last. Maybe I'm going to eventually combine it with a greater onboarding. Maybe that would be a better fit. But just off of the top of my head, I'm going to start grouping things based on their functionality. A big mistake people make when they're grouping their snapshots or their, kind of compartmentalizing things, they do kind of maybe verticals, right? Like they might think of a whole entire pipeline, like our whole sales pipeline, our whole onboarding pipeline. And that's a big mistake because an onboarding sales pipeline is everything from lead magnets, lead magnet delivery, sales calendars, nurture sequences, like the sales system, you name it. Like that's broad. Maybe it's our subscriptions. That's a huge breadth of things. So we're probably only going to have like 3 or 4 modules, but it's not going to be giving us any information. Like what is in a sales pipeline? What is part of it? Whereas if we get focused on functionality, the custom value updater module is really clear what's in it, right? There's a scope to it. There's a very defined scope. We can explain it simply. Our sales calendar module, anything to do with the sales calendar, we want to put those assets and group them there. And over time, you might end up with like 20 or 30 modules, and that's okay because if you have a big enough system, that's that level of granularity you need. Now, maybe over time, you might find that, hey, maybe 30 is too much, and maybe there's 2 small modules we can combine. But that's what I'm doing in this first hour is I'm starting to group things based on their functionality to set myself up later on so I can better manage the client. Now, if this is a client that I just, I'm being paid just to do one thing for, and there's not going to be much work after, this is a bit overkill, of course. But if you're an employee, if you're a contractor, you're going to be doing work for a couple weeks, or if you want to be able to do work with them beyond your initial kind of interaction, then this kind of work is essential. It's non-negotiable. So cool. So one of the things that you're going to be hearing about this is that you might say, hey, Mike, this is a lot of manual work. Is there any tools we can use to speed it up? Well, in Apache Hub, I have got you a bit covered. Now, I'm a fan of doing things manually because with AI, we don't want an AI to understand our snapshots. We want the human. You want to understand it. So I'm a big believer in that. However, when you're just getting started, you need to do things fast. I've created a little system for importing in high-level accounts. So in Apache Hub, what I can do is I can come in and I can connect this session here. I'm just going to go and put it in, and it's going to start scanning my accounts. And there's 223 assets. I'm going to add it to an existing one because I already did this, had this one all set up. And I'm going to let Apache organize the modules because Apache is the AI in Apache Hub, for those that aren't known. So it's going to start importing things in, and I'll kind of cut to the chase of what it'll actually give you. And I'll show you what that looks like once it's all done. What it looks like something like this. We have all of our assets in the left. We have them all grouped by functionality. that the AI figured out. We can sort them if we need to. We have descriptions written for everything that's based on the module it's in. So what Apache Hub does is it doesn't just look at everything and write a description for it blindly. It first is going to look at the whole system, the whole module, every single module in there. It's going to group all of the workflows and assets logically how they need to, and then it's going to write that description for them. And even better, adding those links, right? Having those workflows. Well, what assets were in it? Well, we can see a list of all of the different assets. These are different custom update values that are part of it, right? We can see different modules. Now, AI, it's always never going to be perfect on its own. It's going to obviously make little tiny mistakes here and there. But the thing is that this is going to help massively speed you up because now you have something to start from. So now when you're going through that big manual process, right? It is a lot of work. Now when you're going through, you have things already done and started, right? So you can open up the workflow, you can see the assets that are already kind of there, and then you can look at the description and you have a starting space instead of like a blank canvas, like, well, what do I write for this? Well, you can say, hey, fires when a contact submits a specific form, updating custom value number 1 with data from the contact, blah, 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 blah. This is a little confusing. I might rewrite that, but it's pretty darn close to what I would actually need. Cool. So that's what I would do in the first hour is I would be documenting their account, start building some structure for them, and start managing those things. And then now if you can, that's only going to be the starting. You might need a couple hours, but what's really cool is once you get everything kind of done, you can show the client all the different things. So you can show the client, hey, hand them off. Hey, here's your documentation, right? Here's all the modules. Here's the sales assignment module. Here's what's in it. Here are the workflows that are in it. This is what they're connected to. This is what the workflow, if you want to see some details, that sort of thing. If you want to see any of the updates or the bugs that we found. So look, there's a bug. The marketing newsletter preference categories lack add remove workflows, right? So we're missing some things. There's some things that you documented as you went. And now you can show that client your analysis of things in an easy way to understand. And you can turn this into more paid work because you're going to be the first person that they've ever come in that's shown them how their system is, that's been able to walk them through how things actually work, what things need to be done, what needs to be worked on, and being able to then say, well, okay, here's everything that I saw while I was fixing that first thing. What would you like to be having? Here's a list of bugs. Do you want me to fix them? Here's a list of improvements I would make. Do you want me to implement them? Making those things. So that's why the documentation part is so important and why in that first 60 minutes, you want to start your documentation because it will pay off in dividends for you in the days, weeks, and even months down the road when you have this. Anytime kind of things slow down for you, like the client doesn't have anything more to give you, well, you can proactively bring them things to just say yes to, and it makes it that easy. So guys, that's what I do. And the first 60 minutes is I start setting myself up and my client for success. I'm coming into an account that's a mess, that's crazy, and I don't know what's up and what's down. I start the process of aligning things, making it all make sense for them. And if you want to be able to use this tool and learn about documentation of high-level accounts, Apache Hub has got you covered. And look, hopefully this helps you out when you take on your next client.